Steve Manwell, and this is our 1967 Land Rover station wagon. The Land Rover project came up as a possibility for me about a year and a half ago when my dad was thinking of downsizing his collection a little bit. And it had been in storage, needed to have some things done to it. Since I'd had a number of Rover cars, but I'd never had a Land Rover before, I decided to take on the project and kind of recommission the Land Rover and keep the project and the tradition with it going, kind of pick up where he left off with it. A similar Land Rover to this, in fact the same year, same model, just a blue one instead of a red one, was a car that I grew up riding in. My parents bought one in 1969 with the intent of using it out in Colorado, where we went during the summers through most of the 70s and into the early 80s. From an early age, I got an exposure to Land Rovers. We also had Rover cars in the family, primarily driven by my grandfather, although my father also maintained his cars. And this was just one of a series of fairly unusual cars that we had relative to what the average American driving family might have. Yeah, this project is in fact a preservation effort, also trying to continue the tradition with this particular Land Rover and a series of other Land Rovers. With this project, we're taking a somewhat different approach to some. You know, as you consider what to do with a vehicle in this condition, you know, a number of options come up. You know, obviously, one is to go the full restoration route and try to bring it back to factory new condition or better. In a lot of cases, restorations wind up taking a vehicle to something better or even far better than new. And with this, we kind of took somewhat the opposite approach. In this case, it was a Land Rover that, through its history, had been largely preserved. It had been driven for 4 or 5 years, as far as we understand, before the engine was damaged and then removed from it, and then it sat in storage for at least 20 years. Being behind the wheel and off-road with it was exciting. I don't think I had actually driven a Land Rover off-road particularly myself. I mean, I had been in Land Rovers, you know, routinely when I was growing up, you know, on some off-road trips with my dad and with my parents. And I had driven Land Rovers somewhat. But in the meantime, I've primarily been involved with Rover cars. And so, you know, not only the experience of working with the Land Rover was a new thing, but driving it on the road at all, let alone driving off-road, was quite a new thing as well. So that was a lot of fun.